Hey everyone, it is Saishi and welcome to the first video on this channel. So essentially a bit about me is I'm a security engineer and essentially I do a lot of pen testing and trying to transition into red teaming, but I'm creating this video basically this channel to learn how to talk about concepts and basically make fun videos and all that about different attack vectors, enumeration tactics and all that kind of stuff. Today we're going to be going over FTP, right? So I'm not going to explain too much of the theory, right? So FTP being one of the older protocols, file transfer protocols, we know that it uses TCP port 20 and port 21 being what we'll actually see when running a port scan on the server, the FTP server. And I'm currently running VS FTPD on an Ubuntu box on virtual machine. And over here on the left, I have my Kali box. So essentially, what we're going to do is I'm going to go over the concept of an anonymous login. So what is an anonymous login, or basically anonymous FTP? So essentially, when we have a FTP server that allows anonymous login, it allows us to just enter anonymous as a user and then log in to the FTP server, obviously with very limited access. And we are kind of jailed into a specific folder that is basically that we set on the configuration file that is on the FTP server, right? So let's actually just go and do that quickly. Let me output the configuration and show you guys. So over here we have a configuration, the VS FTPD configuration, and what we are actually looking for are two settings. So we have this anonymous enabled, which is basically enables anonymous access. This is the what enables anonymous login on the FTP server. And then we have a anon root. So this is in charge of this essentially defines the root directory of the anonymous FTP user once the anonymous user logs into the FTP server. So obviously the anonymous user will be jailed into this folder, and there's a few settings that the folder needs to have for it to work. Otherwise, you're gonna have some issues when trying to get into this folder, right? So as you can see, the folder needs to be owned by root and not writable by other users, right? So let's exit that. I just want to make sure that the service is running. So so we can see that it is running, and yes, so currently I set up a flag on this server, and this would be like kind of for a basic CTF. I know a lot of easy CTFs when they show that we have an open FTP port. We essentially will find anonymous login. I've seen it at least more than 50% of the times when doing CTFs, but essentially what we're going to do, so I have an internal virtual network setup on VirtualBox, and what we're going to do is just run a scan on this system, right? So our Ubuntu machine. So firstly, I want to check the IP addresses of both, so you guys can see we are on the same network. So yeah, so what we're going to do is let's just do a ping, see if we can actually reach that the Ubuntu server. So yes, that's looking good. And then what we're going to do is run a sudo, and we can see already everything's already set up. And essentially, we're going to run scripts now and get some version detection on this Ubuntu box that we have. So let's scan and see what we get. Okay, cool. So literally just out the bat, right? So we can already see that Nmap detected port 21 being open, which is the control port that FTP uses. And we can see we're running VS FTPD version 3.0.5. That looks good. And then through Nmap's scripts, we saw that the FTP anon script actually detected that FTP anonymous login was allowed on the server. And what it does also is it logs into the FTP server using the anonymous user, and then gives us what it can actually see. So we can see that there's a flag within the FTP server that we are currently scanning. So what we can then do is log in to FTP, and what we can do is log in using anonymous, and we are in. So there is another configuration that essentially that can be set to not allow a password to be used when logging in as anonymous. So I have that set to true, which is why I wasn't prompted for a password. But we run an ls a directory, a listing on the server. We can see that we have a folder called upload, and then we have a flag.txt. So you'll normally see it like this, and when we try to that don't work, but let's use get to download the flag. So once we do that, we'll see that it was pulled, and then we can use the exclamation mark to send commands on our local machine instead of on the FTP server. So it's just easier to work with. Let's do a exclamation mark and let's catch out the flag.txt file. And as you can see, we get like a random flag thing that I came up with, but essentially shows you the basics of enumerating FTP server, finding anonymous login, and then using anonymous login to get the flag. This is normally found in basic CTFs, and I thought it would be a fun little video to make as my first YouTube video before start making more and hopefully improve the way that I speak about topics and speech. But I'm hoping that you guys enjoyed it, and thank you for sticking to the video, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks.